Kosovo is a province that is located in southern part of Serbia, and Serbia is a country that used to be part of Yugoslavia and Czech Republic or Czechoslovakia, and is north of Greece and Macedonia, and just to the east across the Adriatic from Italy. Before the invasion of Kosovo was that we had an operation ongoing since 1992, was called Deny Flight, and that operation was to halt the advancement of the Serbian army and what they were doing to the Albanian or the ethnic Albanians in Kosovo, to try and give them a fair advantage to be able to fight back on their own. The war has been an issue for many, probably centuries, because the ethnic Albanians are actually part of the old Ottoman Empire that came out of Turkey, so they have the Muslim and Christian conflicts as well as. So Milosevic had sent his troops in there to start doing their ethnic cleansing, and that's really what started the war. The two main opposing forces were, as far as the right there on the ground in Kosovo, were the Kosovo Liberation Army, or as the Serbian army called them, the rebels, the Kosovo rebels. So you had the Serbian army under Slobodan Milosevic and the Kosovo Liberation Army. Well, in 1998, it was determined that NATO would get involved, and they developed a coalition again of NATO partners. NATO partners being, different folks from around the world and different countries. And what was going on is the Serbian army was advancing into Kosovo so badly, and they were killing and just doing all kinds of nasty things to the ethnic Albanians. The Albanians were fleeing Kosovo, trying to get away from that, and they were still, just going in and killing women and children in massive amounts, and just really trying to do create what we call a genocide to rid the world of that population. And so we decided to stop that, and we started to initiate airstrikes from the NATO coalition. The countries that were involved in the war were, well, first off, obviously Serbia and the province of Kosovo, and once the NATO got involved, that was many more countries were involved, starting off with the United States, Canada, Spain, England, or United Kingdom, Germany was involved, even Australia was involved at one point, and really just several of the European countries. Obviously, they had a vested interest in what was going on there, so that's why they got involved, because they didn't really want that to spread into Europe. And of course, behind the scenes was also Russia. Russia was not happy with NATO getting involved in this conflict. They were supporters of Serbia. So, and of course, if Russia had gotten behind Serbia, that could have escalated things quite a bit. And who knows, it could have even, started off World War III. The airstrikes were definitely needed. However, of course, they weren't quite as effective as we had seen in just a few years earlier in Desert Storm, because of the topographical differences in the regions. One's an open desert, and the other one's a lot of wooded mountainous areas. So one of the problems that we did face, however, was that not too long after the airstrikes had started, there was an issue where a NATO aircraft had bombed. We actually targeted and bombed the Chinese embassy by mistake. Apparently, the intelligence wasn't good enough for us to determine what that building was, but we bombed it, and that could have caused quite a bit. Much greater escalation in the war. Could have even turned into World War III had both Russia and China been involved. It certainly could have changed the way things happened that came out of that air campaign. The President of the United States at that time was Bill Clinton, and yes, I did agree. However, I think that in his dealing with NATO and the United Nations, we probably actually delayed this a little bit longer than what it should have been. There's a lot of people that have been displaced and been killed in Bosnia and in Kosovo. At least 240,000 refugees were trying to get out of Albania or moved from Kosovo into Albania, and even still trying to get out of Albania, and they were even coming over into Italy, and were being just trying to get away from what those horrible actions of the Bosnian army were doing to them. We lived in Aviano Air Base during the Kosovo War. I was part of the United States Air Force. I was an enlisted member. I worked as a civil engineer, structures guy, or carpenter masonry, and we were stationed at Aviano Air Base, which is in northern Italy. My job during the Kosovo conflict was with the 31st Fighter Wing and at Aviano. Was part of the 31st Civil Engineering Squadron there, and we had actually, at the time, I was a locksmith, so I did locksmithing duties. But during our wartime duties, we were part of an organization called Prime Beef, Civil Engineering Prime Beef unit. And what civil engineering, the Prime Beef function did is we were normally would deploy to whatever conflict was going on, and even sometimes we did humanitarian deployments to help out with earthquakes and things like that to help. But for this, we were already at Aviano, where the airstrikes were being launched out of, so we were considered forward deployed. So our job there, they asked us to build a tent city, and this tent city was for about at least 1,000 men that would come in, and we had to build what's called a temper tent, which is an aluminum framed structure with canvas pulled over it. We also were asked to build wooden floors. Normally they didn't have wooden floors in the bottoms of these. It was just really a sheet of material on the bottom for the floor. And so we went actually and put in wooden floors because where they were located was susceptible to water, standing water. If it rained, it wouldn't drain very quickly. So we built the floors up so people wouldn't have to be sitting in the water. And just for the living areas, we built all those tents. We also had to provide the latrines, the showers, the mess facilities or dining facilities, and recreational facilities. And so we built all those structures as well. And each one of those, we also had to provide the water distribution, electrical distribution, because we did provide them with air conditioning and heating in each one of those tents. So it was a pretty big operation. You're basically building a small city, and we did that in a matter of about 3.5 to 4 days. Since, like I said, we were stationed there, that was our permanent, home actually. We lived off base, and a point that I just remembered was even just getting to work became difficult. We were asked to not wear our uniforms when we were driving to work because we lived off base. We could wear our uniform bottoms, but we had to take our top off and just have on a civilian shirt because there was some protesting going on right outside the gate. That when we were trying to drive on the base, we were driving right by protesters that did not agree with what was going on. And so that was another aspect where you kind of had to watch what you were doing, where you were at during this whole time. Another thing that I also just remembered was that sitting in your living room is kind of strange. At night, I can still see the airplanes coming in or landing and taking off. I could see them outside of our window in our living room. And kind of the same shot that I saw outside my window, I saw on the TV when CNN was covering it. You saw the same line of airplanes coming in, the same thing outside of my window. So that was kind of surreal, seeing it like that on TV and watching on CNN, because you saw that during the Desert Storm, but you weren't there. This time I was there, seeing it both live on TV and out my window at the same time. So that was part of it, is one thing. And the other thing was that work hours were pretty long. Work hours could be at least 12 hours a day. That was our scheduled time that we had to be there. And I also had to do after duty hours as well. The different things were, I was on call for safe repair and maintenance, and vault doors and things like that as a locksmith while I was at Aviano. And so I was doing that and trying to also go to school to earn my bachelor's degree in government. So it made it for very long hours, and it would be like 2 o'clock in the morning before I'd get my homework done, and then have to get up and be at work by 6 o'clock. The job did change a little bit after the airstrike stopped. We were obviously went back to regular shifts. They'd give us some more time off that we were able to take our leave. My family took a trip to England. We were able to visit some friends there and also visit London. We were there for 5 to 7 days, if I recall, and we were able to do that kind of thing, travel around more in country there as well. Well, the conflict's really not over even to this day. I think that's something that's going to probably continue forever, actually, as long as people aren't willing to accept different, different ethnicities that they can't get along for whatever reasons. But what stopped it was a ceasefire was determined, and the Serbian army had stopped their advance because of that. Milosevic had pulled his forces back, and really that's what stopped the airstrikes being launched out of Aviano.
Croatia, Albania, somewhere near Romania. It's Euro and NATO. Why the hell do we go? Pristina blew up ahead from Macedonia. Albania, somewhere far overseas. There's a place called Kosovo. That's where you don't wanna go if you're Albania.